Now, Krishna, it's time for the next session, IPO, or a detailed discussion on IPO. And who are the panelists and the moderator?
Yeah, we have got a very impeccable panel. But before moving on to that panel, I think we have an audio-visual presentation, isn't it? Yeah.
Let's have a look at it. Yeah.
IPO, a catalyst for economic growth. IPOs are crucial for business expansion, offering companies capital and boosting market visibility, which in turn fosters economic growth. India's IPO market has thrived, with 298 IPOs raising rupees 1.62 lakh crore in 2024. Kerala, traditionally reliant on remittances, can leverage the growing IPO trend to diversifying its economy. With focus on IT, finance and other sectors, Kerala has significant potential for public listings, helping businesses grow and reducing dependence on remittances, boosting overall economic development.
That's it. So IPO, a detailed discussion. Gobi, usually some companies, they may think that IPO is some complex process. But when I was talking to Mr. Prince George, director of DBFS, he was telling me that's quite a natural process. Every company should go through in its growth process. So we have to take it in that sense. And I wish every company who is representing here would be listed in BSE or NSE. So we have eminent BSE head and NSE head with us. So our moderator for this discussion is Shri Pradeep Chandrasekaran, founder, director, Finmark Trainers India Private Limited. Sir, please.
Let us introduce the panelist. Dr. Harish Ahuja is head of the Sustainability Product and Strategy Development NSE. So please.
To call upon the lady panelists in that, because I'm very happy to see women in this financial sector, capital market. Ms. Radha Krithivasan, Head of Listing and SME Department, PSC Limited.
Next panelist, Mr. Pranav Haldea, is the Managing Director at Prime Database Group. Sir, please.
Our next panelist is joining with us virtually from UAE. That is Sri Ameya Prabhu, Founder and Managing Director, NAFA Capital Advisors Private Limited.
Joining
virtually. Yes.
Next is Mr. Manoj Ravi. He is the CEO of KLM AXIVA FINVEST. Yes.
Now the panel is completed. Thank you so much, Pradeep sir. One request, even though we are delayed, kindly try to wind up it at 4 p.m. Thank you so much. Wishing you all the best. Thank you.
So good afternoon to all of you. So I hope we are going to be engaging you. I know that the post-lunch session in any program is the most challenging one to keep the audience engaged. But we shall try to do our best to keep you all engaged. We have got a fantastic panel, as you would have understood when they were getting introduced. So before I introduce myself and tell you a little more about myself, I'd like to request my fellow panelists to just take a minute and introduce themselves to you.
Thank you, Pradeep. First of all, on behalf of NSE, I like to sincerely offer my thanks to NS News 24 for giving us this opportunity. I think IPO is an area which Kerala should look into seriously. About myself, I'm Dr. Harish Ahuja. I head the listing, sustainability, power and carbon markets, and social stock exchange in NSE. About my journey, I am an ex-IS officer. I served in bureaucracy for 15 years. Then I went to Blackstone supported private equity companies, basically renewable energy. And then I start my own company. So I would say, not a successful entrepreneur, so I understand the pain of the SMEs firsthand. And from last 3.5 years, I'm into Wari Solar, BSc, and now NSE. I'm basically from IIT Delhi, and I'm Calcutta. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Radha Krithivasan, heading the listings and SME at BSc. A chartered accountant by qualification, and I have over 3 decades of experience, basically in the investment banking and now on the so-called semi-regulatory side. So I look after the listings at BSc. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Pranav Haldea. I'm the Managing Director at Prime Database Group. We are a capital markets database provider covering fundraising by Indian companies, including IPOs, which is, of course, the topic of today's discussion. We also track all the listed companies. We track the mutual fund, the credit rating space. Anything to do with the Indian capital market is something which is tracked by us. Prior to Prime, I used to be working with Deutsche Bank in Singapore and with HSBC. And I am an MBA from IIM Calcutta by qualification. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Manoj, ravi, CEO of KLM AXIVA FINVEST. KLM is a non-banking financial company started 25 years back, and we are into gold loan precisely, and some business loans and microfinance. Prior to this, I was with ICICI, HDFC, and Muthoot Groups, and I've been managing this company for the last 3 years. Thank you.
Ameya, we can't hear you.
രാത്രിയാണ് നമ്മളിത് KSRTC സമയത്ത് വെച്ച് കൊടുത്തത്.
Ameya, we can't hear you. Ameya, there seems to be a technical issue. I think once we resolve it, we'll come back to you. So before I start off the panel discussion, I'll actually start off with a small anecdote relating to my personal journey in the investing space. So my first job was actually in Bangalore. I joined a textile company called Madura Coats, which was at that point in time called Coats Viala. So I'm talking of the early 1990s, which was a very, very momentous time, because for the capital markets, that was the time of the Harshit Mehta scam. And it was also the time when the economic reforms in India were unleashed with Dr. Manmohan Singh as the finance minister and Mr. P.V. Narasimha Rao as the Prime Minister of India. And I started my career right in that year. But, I had zero knowledge about share markets, about shares. But when I went into that organization, I found that all my colleagues there had a culture. And the culture was that any IPO which was coming into the market, all the employees would pool their money together, they would invest into that. And it didn't take me more than a few weeks to fall into that. And along with my colleagues, I started applying for every single IPO, promptly lost money in literally every one of those IPOs till I hit a gold mine. in one IPO in 1993 called Infosys. So I got 100 shares allotted during the time of the Infosys. One share was issued at 95 rupees per share, 9,500 rupees invested for 100 shares. Now, there's a twist to that story. If I had that shares with me, that would be worth 17 crore rupees today. It's a different matter that during the next scam which hit the Indian markets, which was the Ketan Parikh scam, my shares were stolen, and that's a different story for another day. So with that, I would like to kickstart this, panel discussion. My first question is actually to Radha. And, Radha, my first question to you is, as a market infrastructure player and a regulator, what a suggestion would you like to give to the companies regarding their pathway to the IPO market, and how do they assess their readiness for an IPO?
Yeah. See, when I would speak about SME, or how is it?
Anything goes, but I think a lot of the companies here would like to actually know about the SME segment.
Yeah. So when we talk about companies in the SME sector, one big thing that needs to firstly change is the mindset of the promoters. What happens? They say, I am the promoter now. I run the business as I want. I don't have to report to anybody. So why, and I am making profits, I am enjoying my life. Why should I get into the hassles of listing, of diluting my shares, of somebody else sitting on my head, and I should be giving my profits also to somebody else? So that entire mindset firstly has to be changed. That is the first process when any company wants to go in for an IPO, that mindset changing. See, when you talk about dilution, it's only a minimum of 25% dilution that you need to do. The balance of 70, that is the SEBI regulation. You can go more also, a company can go more also. But and the promoters have 75% of them. But unless you dilute and in the capital markets you get listed, that 75% which you will be having would literally have no value as liquidity with you. So that's one thing again, wherein you have to change and think that yes, we need to get listed. What happens? And then, many a times what we see is when a company is not in the public thing and it's doing its things privately, the books of accounts and all, and the everything is maintained and not in a transparent manner. So that again, a very big transparency needs to come in. You need to report everything. We need to start showing profits, which many a times is not shown though it is made. Transparency in the working and pay more tax, all that is required. So all that needs to be changed. You need to know, once you are a listed entity, there are so many benefits, there are so many visibility, the brand grows. So why, and what do you pay for all these things? You pay that in the sense that you be transparent, you be a compliant company, and mind you, if you're doing your business properly, then, and doing it regularly, the compliance, once you start complying with, it's not something that it's very difficult and something that you cannot be doing it. Yes, you start it and you will go through it. So these are basically the things that you need to be, and the more the process, if you go more into the process, it's nothing but you need to appoint, do you want me to go to the process also?
Yeah, if you can quickly sum up.
Yeah, I can quickly sum up. See, once you think you're going to be you want to be a listed entity, first thing what you have to do is you have to appoint a merchant bankers. Because for you to take the platform and get listed, there is an intermediary called a merchant banker who will help you throughout, and that is a SEBI registered intermediary. So you have to appoint a merchant banker who will take care of the diligence, the entire diligence, along with the legal counsel. They will do the entire diligence of your company, your past, what the company was doing, the financials, the ROC formalities, and you have to define the objects. Why do you want to raise the money? That has to be very clearly defined. There has to be, another thing what the promoters generally face is the board has to be broadened. What if it's till the time it is a private limited company or a not listed company, you have your own set of board, you have your own people sitting on the board. Now once you decide to go public, your board needs to be broadened. That should be corporate governance regulations that has to be followed, LODR regulation, which states that at least 50% of the board needs to be an independent director. So you need to appoint independent directors, there needs to appoint women directors, all that has to be taken. Once everything is done, once your document is prepared, what you call as a DRHP, with the objects of the issue, with the history, with the company's business, everything written, then you file it with the stock exchanges and the SEBI. They legally vet the documents, they give the clearance, then you do the marketing of the issue. The merchant bankers helps you out and do the marketing of the issue. And once the marketing is done, you open the issue and list the shares. So this is a process. Though it looks simple, it is a bit complicated, but I'm sure the benefits of the process is way far better. Thank you.
Thank you, Radha. You wanted to add something, Harsha?
I think over and above, a very important and simple question I'd like to answer here. I'm interacting since morning, couple of founders here. Let me ask the participants, how many of you are the owner of the company or first line of command for a company? Can you raise your hand, please? Couple of people, yes. And how many of you are in operation from last 3 years? 3 years operation history. Almost all. How many of you have got 2 years positive EBITDA, operational profit more than 1 crore? And if you're managing your company well, I think you're all who raised the hand are eligible. This is as simple.
Just one thing more, Ahuja ji. How many of you list in other you invest in other companies? So why not have your own company wherein you have to do your business and people can invest in your companies?
So I come to that later on, but somebody asked me this question. It's very difficult to get listed. I think first and foremost thing is at least you're eligible. So most of you which are sitting in this room and owning the companies are eligible. This is the first thing. Second thing is, first already Radha has told you, I think there are people, exchange officials, there's an entire ecosystem which help you to come on board on the public listing market. Now, very important fact which I like to share is, I just like to share one data and then I hand over to Pradeep. I was just reading the data, 14 lakh, almost 14 lakh MSME are registered from Kerala. 1400 are medium industries having 50 crore and more capex. Only 3 are listed in last 12 years. Now, I don't expect a state like Kerala having highest literacy rate, highest sex ratio, very prosper. 20% of your young generation goes out, and repatriate the money. I mean, reasonably rich people, investment in doing a stock market also, but your companies, are not listed. I think I expect more from Kerala, and that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, Harsha, for that. In fact, I interact a lot with the young generation in Kerala. And in the last 15, 20 years, I've seen one major migration which is happening. When we started working, the migration was that people in my age group used to go outside India or outside the state to start working because they never found good employment opportunities here. Today, another, kind of migration which I'm seeing is that from the colleges, you are not seeing good quality students wanting to study in the colleges in Kerala. They find that the educational opportunities or the quality of the education outside Kerala is much, much better. So this, I think, is actually going to create a huge demographic problem for Kerala in the coming years unless that is going to be addressed. And definitely, I think one way in which it can be addressed is if the companies which exist in Kerala or the new companies which want to be established in Kerala are able to raise meaningful capital, which basically will allow them to not only retain talent, but also attract the talent from outside. Harsha, another question to you is with respect to this green IPOs. Do you see any trends which are coming towards green IPOs in India? What should companies do to align their business models and sustainability to attract long-term capital for that?
Yeah, so again, I will share some data. I'm very happy to share, and I think it's a proud moment for every Indian. Last year, in terms of number of IPOs, India is the leading country. So I'll share some data. Last year, I'm talking about calendar year right now, we had done around, I'm talking about NSE again, not BSE including here. We did around 268 IPOs, 190 in SMEs and around 78 in 198 in SMEs and 90 in main board. Cumulative raising around $19.5 billion. Now here comes the statistics. $19.5 billion which we raised is much higher than what Nasdaq did. They did around 15.7. What S&P 500 did around 12.7. So a number of IPOs which are larger than US markets. Now, very important thing is what we did 268 are much higher than the entire Asia did. Asia means Shanghai Exchange, Hong Kong and Japan. What the cumulative did, they did around 212, 214. We did 268. Now seeing this, we need to ask the question, where exactly this number of IPOs coming from? And here comes my answer to Pradeep. Very interesting fact we noticed last year in NSE exchange, out of $19.7 billion, 25% money was raised by green companies. Ola, Wari Solar, Acme and other like similar companies. In fact, EPC companies. So companies which are into green businesses like renewable, like green hydrogen, electric vehicle, or for that matter, transmission. I'm counting transmission as a part of this because they're adding certain transmission lines which are complementing only the green revolution in the country. 22% money has been raised by green companies, which is a good sum. In SMEs also, I saw that around 1,100 crores have been raised by SMEs companies. Around 16 issues are there. Again, both the places, be it SME IPO or be it main board IPO, green companies have contributed a lot. And believe me, for green companies, there is a huge traction. I was meeting in the morning one founder who is into the equipment manufacturing for renewables, especially solar inverter, solar UPS, or also EV batteries. And I already filed the papers, he's coming to NSE. What I'm suggesting here, the green is the flavor of the season, in fact, and investors are really giving them the good premium. All the companies which got listed, most of them has made the money, listing gains, and they still are having high prices. The idea is even those companies which are not into green, but they are buying the power or they are using the electricity, they can also add some element of green by going solar, putting on the rooftop or by putting some captive power or converting some of their portfolio into green energy. I think even SME promoter which are thinking to go for IPOs, if they can follow certain sustainable practices, especially taking their P&L item of buying electricity from the utilities or from thermal power plant to solar or from wind, that matter is a huge premium. I will have offline discussion with those promoters, but at this stage I'm saying green is the flavor. Investors are really giving good premium to all these companies. Companies are following very smart and good technologies in terms of adopting renewables, and all this is being, you can reward it in terms of higher valuation in the market. Thank you.
Thank you, Harsha, for that. And I think green is something very, very important for a state like Kerala, which is so environmentally sensitive state like Kerala. And I think more than manufacturing industry, I think it is the service and it is the other green businesses which can really, really find a thriving space in this country. Ameya, are you able to hear us, Ameya?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you?
Wonderful. So, Ameya, here's one first question to you. One challenge which an investment banker is always going to be facing is the promoter of the company wants as high a price as is possible, But at the same time, they have got to be providing a fair value, fair return to the investors. How do you see the investment bankers are striking a balance between these conflicting, two, people at the broad end of the spectrum? How do you become fair to both?
Sure. Thank you for the question. And I didn't get a chance to introduce myself earlier. So just a quick introduction. My name is Ameya, Prabhu. I'm here in my capacity as the CEO of NAFA Capital. We have a couple of businesses. We do public markets. So we have a PMS. We have a private markets fund. So we have an AIF on the private markets. We also have an investment banking business, which you just referred to, and an NBFC. So I think I think on both sides, so we look at it both from the buy side and the sell side. So I think when it comes to looking at IPOs from an investor point of view, of course, you want the pricing to be good. You want it to not be overvalued, because ultimately you want it to be, you need to have, of course, an adequate upside to the listing, and of course also continued upside beyond that. As a banker, while you have to, as an investment banker, so when our investment banking team runs a deal, so the CEO of the bank will always want to maximize the price of the IPO, and also ensure that the client, because ultimately the client is the company, gets the best price for their shares. But what we always advise, because given years of experience in the market, we always advise two things. One is, the promoter should always leave stuff on the table, should always leave upside on the table for the investors, because ultimately that's what builds name, and of course, ultimately the investors have to make money, not just the investors who invest in the IPO, but also say funds like ours, our PMS, which continually buys shares and keeps trading them through time. So ultimately it has to be an attractive script for investors. So that's one. Number two is, we always advise investors to look, or the company to look at long term, because of course the IPO is the end of one journey for the promoter, wherein having started the company at whatever time, some are family businesses, some are startups, they come into the public markets to unlock value for themselves and their investors. But I think the IPO is not the end of the journey. It is end of a journey, but it's the beginning of another journey. So if one has to look at that journey, one has to ensure that one creates good, strong corporate governance, and also goes in with a good price into the market. So not just take, literally not just take everything off the table when you list and then that's it, right? I think you have to work with investors, you have to work with stakeholders and institutions in order to go further in that. So that's the advice as an investment. If you ask my investment banking CEO, that's the advice he would give the client, that ultimately you need to think long term and not just short term. So of course, Encash make money, but for a lot of people, they're already making money because most of them have started the companies themselves, so it's at par. But think of the long term. So I think that's how you balance the two differing thought processes.
Thank you, Ameya. Manoj, the next question is to you, and you are actually heading a Kerala-based company, and hopefully sooner than later we should be looking forward to the IPO of your company. So I'm assuming that you would have gone through, or would be going through, the process of preparing for an IPO. So my question to you is, what should a company do to prepare for an IPO? And at what stage should a company go for an IPO?
Thanks, Pradeep, for having me here. At the outset, I should really congratulate the Team 24 and you for having this particular subject IPO in Kerala for a discussion point. Basically, we have about 44,000 companies, registered, where less than 40 companies are listed from the space. And a lot more bigger companies are here in Kerala, which is eligible for listing. And probably there are a lot of myths where, so they are not coming to that space. So this particular discussion will surely, open the eyes of people, those who are managing their companies. And I'm sure that we will also be a part of the growth journey of India by, 2047. So we should be, a developed economy. That is what the dream of our nation. So this particular discussion will surely give that kind of an opportunity. And so if you just take data of companies, about 27 lakhs companies are registered, where about 17 lakh companies are, active in India right now. Wherein, if you ask me, in NSE, there are only 2,400 companies are listed, about 5,500 companies are only listed there in BSE. So there is a very bigger room for this particular IPO space to probably garner with. So this is a time where, all these companies and promoters should really, think through, and, they should be having a clear vision on why we should really go for an IPO and what are the benefits which the company as well as the shareholders will get. One second, so what kind of contribution that companies can give into the proper economy of the state. So that way, so if you think, so we do have, many companies in Kerala, and we as an NBFC, we are also planning for going public in the near future. So we do have a lot more preparations currently. The point which you have asked us, the preparatory side. Of course, as the eminent panel said, you should have a proper planning for that. You should have a proper answer. Why should we go for public? That is the main point. See, there are a lot more reasons for IPO, probably for your business development, expanding to the next arena, probably geographically or otherwise, or to pay back the debts, or for investing into other, subsidiary companies. Many, objectives should be there for a company. You should find out what does your need basically, and what kind of companies can go directly to IPO. As he rightly said, any company, those who have been in the arena for about 3-4 years, they can, of course, very well, find a space in IPOs. So there are myths kind of, the bigger companies can only go for companies. It's not. Even smaller companies can go. We have SME IPOs where even, there is a data which I have seen in 2024, about 3 crores has been accelerated by a company through an IPO. So SME IPOs are for smaller companies, and main board for bigger companies and corporates, where, up to a level of 27,000 crores has been garnered by Hyundai, which has recently happened, which was a very highly successful, IPO. So any company who was actually intending to have, a growth story, they can go for an IPO, and the market is very, very positive for us. If you ask me, in 2024, it was a very, very successful journey for us. So about 91 main board IPOs happened, and they collected about 2 lakh crores from, the capital market, which is a big sign, which is three times higher than 2023's saga. So, and even analysts, they have a vision that, 2025 will be even more lucrative. And there are many more companies are in pipeline for coming out with their own IPO in 2025. So this is time where, all the companies, especially there in Kerala, should really look at for becoming public and, listed their equities there in the stock exchanges. On preparatory side, there should be a vision, a clear communication to the company that we are going public. So there are a lot of nuances. So when you become public, it's transparent and open. So you should be probably audited by the public, so that your company should be having a strength to cope up with that situation first. Second, you should identify a team, team for an IPO, where, as she rightly said, we should have a, merchant banker to appoint. You should have legal entities. Your auditor should be there. Then, such, a team, they should, drive towards the success of IPO, and they will support to the entire journey. And internally, we should have a proper, system in place. Your economic standards, or your, all kinds of accounting standards should be pakka enough. You should have a, audited balance sheet for a minimum of 3 years. Then, your entire process, entire system are, intact for handling post-IPO, load probably which you need to really think of. Then if you appoint a merchant banker, then next is the way which you need to really communicate to the public. So there are road shows you need to plan in order to meet the bigger investors, merchant bankers or analysts, then brokers across pan India. So they need to clearly understand what is your story behind, what is the futuristic story which you can just talk about. These are all things probably a company should really think about. If you have a future to talk, if you have a prosperity to talk, I'm sure that that company can become a very successful IPO owner. Then it is time for listing. For that matter, so you have many other internal things to clear. Then filing DRHP is a very long process. Draft red herring prospectus is the name, where there are a lot of nuances are there. The merchant banker and other entities will support you for making that DRHP. And after the approval from the regulator SEBI, you can go for your IPO and get listed. By listing your shares, so the objective which you have actually planned will get fulfilled if it is a successful one. After IPO, post-IPO process should also be planned in advance, where your value of shares should continue positive, and the investors should get a very good valuation even after some point in time, so that you should have a proper mechanism in place to manage your post-IPO also. These are all the planning exercise probably a company should really look at. Pradeep, thank you.
And he was saying about audited financials and all that. The auditor and the company secretary are the two most important people in the company that has to go public. And the company should have a practicing company secretary on the rolls, and the auditor needs to be a peer-reviewed auditor, which is one thing that generally companies before going to the IPO, they don't have. So that is a very important thing that just I would like to add.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you, Manoj. So incidentally, when I was studying the financial markets last week, I found that in the last year, the Nifty 50 and the Sensex have given us only about 8 to 10% return. But if you look into the SME index of the exchanges, they have generated more than 130% return in the last 12 months. That I'm highlighting simply because that is actually showing you the buoyancy of the IPO market, especially for the SME segment. And moving forward and looking forward, I see this trend continuing indefinitely into the future. Pranav, the next question is directed at you. This is again with respect to regulatory and compliance. So my question to you is, what are the most common compliance issues which companies face during the IPO filing, and what needs to be addressed early in the process? So I just now heard Radha talking us about both the importance of the company secretary and the auditor. Is there anything else which a company needs to be aware of?
Thank you. No, so I think...
Sorry, I didn't know, Pranav, you're taking that question. So. No, I didn't know that auditor, you'll be speaking about the auditor.
So I think a lot has already been said by Harish and Radha on that in terms of preparedness. I have very little to add. I think essentially when a company is going towards an IPO, what is most important, as Radha had said, was from being privately held to being constantly in the public scrutiny. And for that process, you need to appoint external stakeholders. You need to have a Big Four auditor. You need to spruce up your board, get independent directors. So that is, typically, the IPO journey. And these are some of the challenges which companies face during that journey. But, sorry.
But as a follow-up question to that, how important is corporate governance to the success of an IPO and also for the long-term success of the company?
Well, enough and more can be said about the importance of corporate governance, not just for companies which are IPOing, but also for already listed companies. And you know, a lot of people in this audience would have also been investing in the stock market for many years and are well aware of various scams which have taken place in the stock market as well. And all of those scams are essentially failures of corporate governance. You know, one major scam which comes to our mind is obviously the Satyam saga, right? There have been several other misdemeanors which have taken place over the last 30, 40 years of the stock market. And it all ultimately boils down to corporate governance. Of course, I think we've made significant progress in the last 30 years in terms of the regulations which have come now versus what we had. But I fundamentally believe that corporate governance is actually a matter of DNA. It is something which needs to be followed in spirit and not in letter. So we have, you know, I think world-class regulations now in India as far as corporate governance is concerned. But, you know, there are always ways to comply in letter, but not really in spirit. So I think what is important for companies which are going for an IPO and also for already listed companies is to really understand the spirit behind the regulation and actually try to, you know, implement that rather than just, oh, the new SEBI circular has come today, we need to appoint a woman director on the board. Okay, I'll call my friend's wife. Ma'am, will you want to join my board? And that's how the compliance
Same thing is for
is
independent
done.
director also.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You can't just have a friend to be an independent. He's not independent.
Yes, so in fact, one of the databases that we run is on board of directors of all companies. And I still remember this is around 12 years back in 2013, which is when SEBI had first mandated that all companies need to appoint a woman director on the board. First of all, there were two deadlines which were completely missed, and there was a lot of pressure which was put on SEBI to kind of extend this deadline or to do away with the regulation completely. But SEBI stood firm. They did extend the deadline a couple of times, and the final deadline was 31st March 2014. And I still remember that in the last 1 week, which is from 24th March 2014 till 31st March 2014, 200 companies appointed women director in that 1 week. So it is really amazing that in the 3 years time that they had to actually find qualified, you know, because the whole idea behind the regulation was to have gender diversity on the board. So you had 2-3 years to find qualified women on the board, but, you know, no one paid heed to it. And finally, when they got the clear sense that this deadline is not getting extended, people called their, you know, we had cases of, you know, mother-in-laws being appointed, your lawyer's wife, lawyer's daughter, accountant's wife, accountant's daughter. So, you know, companies are very smart in finding ways and means of complying with regulations. And we continue to see that till date. But I always say that the market is the smartest, and the market always rewards good corporate governance. You continue to see that even with the listed companies today, all the listed companies which are genuinely serious about corporate governance and follow it in spirit command a significant premium over their, you know, peers in the same space. So the market is always the smartest. So, you know, corporate governance, you know, the point being that it needs to be followed in spirit more than just in the letter of the law.
Thank you, Pranav. So Radha, the next question is to you. We have seen a lot of changes in the SME space, particularly since its inception the last 3 years. Can you throw some light on the changes which we have seen in the last 3 years on the SME space?
If you ask about SME, this SME platform was established in 2012, and it's over a period of 12 years. What we can see in the initial stages, there were very few companies which used to come for an IPO, and the amounts raised were around 5 crores, 6 crores, which has grown to 5 to 6 crores maybe in 2012. In 2018, it has grown to around 15 crores. Then now the average size of SME IPOs also is around 40 crores. The highest in our exchange was 189 crores, again a green company, which has raised 189 crores. So this is how the SME sizes have grown. In our exchange itself, the total amount raised was 8,000 crores, but the market capitalization is over 2 lakh crores for these SMEs. The investors, if I ask, used to shy away with the SMEs. We never used to get investors investing in these companies. And if you see now, there is an oversubscription of over 100 times, even 700 times, 2,000 times in these SMEs. So this is how again it has grown. The investor profile has also changed. There were hardly any mutual funds that invest in the earlier in the company. There used to be no concept of anchor investor, but now you can see over 100 anchor investors have invested in these various SMEs companies to the tune of over 3,000 crores in the IPO book. So the anchor investors have come, the investor profile, there are mutual funds have come, the banks and institutions are investing. So why is this? Because I feel there are more and more good companies entering into this, the fundamentally strong companies. These are not big companies, but these are fundamentally strong companies whom we can believe will be there and will do good for the markets. They will be there in the SME for 3 years, wherein after there will be a migration. So this is how the SMEs are growing. Just to give you a small example, over the past 3 years, in 2022, there were 101 issues, both BSE and NSE put together, which raised around 1,600 crores. In 23, there were 175 issues, which raised 4,700 crores. And in 24, we have over 250 issues, which have raised over 9,500 crores. So this is the growth. But when I say growth, there are around 6.3 crore SMEs that has been registered in the country. And put together with both the exchanges, there are not more than 1,200 companies. So the percentage that wise is very, very negligible. So there's huge amount of potential and growth in this has to come. And from Kerala, we expect more and more companies to come and list. There are very few companies that are listed from Kerala. So this is our invitation for companies from Kerala to please do come and list. Thank you.
In fact, if I can just take a minute, before today's panel discussion, I took a minute to pull out from our database how many companies from Kerala have got listed on the stock exchange. So we have data going back to 1989, which is nearly 36 years back. So cumulatively, 50 companies, some total of 50 companies from Kerala have come out with an IPO or an SME IPO, cumulatively raising about 7,000 crores. And actually, if I look at the more recent past, which is the last 4 years, you've only had 10 companies coming from Kerala, which have raised about 35,100 crores. So, and a lot of them are obviously finance companies, Kerala being a hub of finance. I think there's a lot more potential, from this stage.
Potential I see, really.
Thank you, Radha. Next question I would like to ask, Dr. Harsha. And this is with respect to the recent changes which SEBI has brought out with respect to the SME companies. Could you throw some light on that?
Yeah, sure. I think before I start to this SEBI framework, I just like to make a very important statement. And I think all the prospective companies which are supposed to be listed should understand one very key difference. The difference between a $0 billion company and difference between a $1 billion company. Now, 0 billion means they will never become billionaire, and $1 billion companies will become a billionaire is with their corporate governance practices. All the big companies who are supposed to be billionaire, be it listed or not listed, from the day one think that they have to be listing, And I think they set the context accordingly. They do the corporate governance practice accordingly. Now, coming back to your question, I think for me, and then I come to SEBI, for me, what is a good business? A good business is a business which is generating free cash flows. After paying their debtors, after taking out the capex, after taking care of their opex, they're still leaving some money on the table for their shareholders or for their stakeholders, What is a good business? A good business have a consistent revenue stream, constant customers, a good product, and I think a strategy in place for at least next 5 years. There's a very simple method of a business, where 2 plus 2 at 4.25 or 5, not 3.5, something very simple. What is the bad business? Bad business suck the cash. They may be in the operation, but they are not, still have sustained cash flows or sustained customers, or the repeat customers are not there. Their product is still in the fermenting stage. They're not able to, create a product line which give them the regular cash flows. Now, if you see the SEBI framework, very interesting. I think all the ingredients of a good business has been co-opted very smartly, very simply. So before SEBI framework, which came on 18 December 2024 only, almost 20 days back, there are 3 criteria I told you. 3 years operation history, 2 years EBITDA positive, 2 out of 3 years, 1 crore EBITDA positive, and third was your net worth should be positive. Fourth was primarily your paid up capital should be below 25 crores. If you have 25 crores above paid up capital, you need to go to main board. But 4 or 5 very key changes has been done to create the aspect of a good business. The first and foremost is your document, and this has come on 18 December. NSE has adopted it in totality. BSE will adopt once the regulations are out by SEBI. But the day 18 December 2024, SEBI put in the public fora their minutes. We adopted in totality. So there is a slight difference between BSE and NSE here. Let's talk about that. So first and foremost is now if the document comes, it should be in the public fora. It should not be that they submit the RHP before us and we clear it, we get the in-principle approval, and then we get the comments from the public, or some people complain, The document would be in the public fora for at least 21 days for getting the comments. Second is EBITDA was not well defined. Now EBITDA has been defined as 1 crore. Third, you cannot raise the capital to pay your short-term debts broadly. Fifth, which is very important, is general corporate purpose. The earlier people were raising the money, and general corporate affair was getting a lot of allocation out of the fundraise. Now they are capped to 10 crores or 15% of the issue. So I think in a very structured manner, SEBI is trying to plug the loopholes which were there, which were being taken advantaged by some, I will not say all the good bad companies, but few miscreants were trying to take advantage of those loopholes. I think these new changes are going to bring all the good aspect of a good business without hurting the ecosystem too much. One very important data which Radha shared, I just like to complement it. What we did, so I'm talking about NSE. NSE did last year 138 issues, raising around 4,500 crore. What we did in last 1 year, cumulative in last 6 years, we are not done. So what we did from 2015 to 2023, you can say, we did last year FY24. This year, so far in calendar year, in this financial year, we have done around 141 issues and raised already 5,600 crores. So SME IPO is the flavor of the season, and I'll read the reason also. If SEBI is putting this benchmark or guardrail in place, there is a reason behind it, because it's not going to stop. Numbers have been shared by Pranav and by Radha. So many SMEs registered, so less listed. It's not going to stop, because I think when the big businesses grow, like I'm talking about JSW, Adani's and Tata's of the world, they need a very smart, very structured, cash-rich ecosystem, which is SMEs. They need a very strong vendor system, which is their ancillaries, again SMEs. So if the big companies are growing, and they're growing, everything, right? India is the 4th largest market in the world after US, China, Japan, and this top 50 companies are contributing a lot. So this strong ecosystem would need cash. They need a rich, they will do the capex, they will do opex, they will come to the market. So SME ecosystem is going to grow only. This guardrail in place by SEBI is going to give a very strong base to us so that we can now fly the rockets here, So I think everybody or anybody who's interested in this space, just keep 2 points in mind. It's a high beta stock. These are I will not say it's a risky investment, but this is a high beta, Systematic risk high in these issues. And sharp ratio is nothing but returns divided by the risk is almost equal to main board. If you have got high appetite, NSE index, SME index has given year on year 43% return. If I see NSE mid cap, 34%. NSE small cap, around 39%. NSE 50, around 15%. SME IPOs is giving the largest return, but it is a high beta. That keep it in mind, these 2 things, that SME IPOs are not going to go down, but please weigh the risk before invest. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Harish. Since we have got very limited time, I just want to give an opportunity to the audience to ask any questions to the panelists. If anyone wants to ask a question. I'm not sure. I thought that a lot of companies which wanted to come out with IPOs would have a lot of questions.
So, if I can, I wanted to add a few points. So, of course, SME IPO, as you've correctly pointed, from an issuer standpoint, is extremely attractive. For the investors, there are, I'm sure, a lot of SME IPO investors in the audience as well. I think one needs to be careful. These are very small companies, low liquidity, low trading. So, which is why, limited, SEBI has also put in place minimum application sizes to these issues. So at least as far as investors are concerned, they need to be a bit wary. But as issuers, whether in SME or in main board, I think there's never been a better time to get listed in India. What you're seeing right now is an amazing confluence of demand and supply. Demand coming in from domestic institutional investors in a big way. All your mutual funds are flushed with money because a lot of retail investors, SIP, mutual funds sahi hai, a lot of money is coming in, which is getting flowed back into the IPO market. At the same time, foreign investors, so FPIs, though you've seen in calendar year 2024 that they sold heavily in the secondary market, but they've been big investors in the primary market, and they've invested upwards of 1.2 lakh crores in the primary market in calendar year 2024. And then, of course, you have individual investors like yourselves and us who are also trying our luck and investing in IPOs. So there is tremendous demand for new IPOs, for any kind of new paper which is coming out in the primary market. At the same time, the supply, of course, like some of the numbers which have been shared, calendar year 2024, you had 91 main board IPOs, you had 240 SME IPOs. This kind of activity has not been seen, and 2025, of course, there are risks in terms of what the budget will bring. You have new precedent coming in US, but the pipeline is tremendous. It's staggering, as I said a couple of days back. You have a pipeline of 2 lakh crores, which is already in advanced stages of getting listed. And there are several companies which are in the process of, getting their DRHP ready to file with SEBI. So, 2025 is likely to be another blockbuster year as far as IPOs are concerned. One additional point, if I can, Pradeep, if I may, I think there was a question on the valuations of IPOs, which was raised as well. I firmly believe that neither the merchant banker nor the company want to price an IPO in such a manner that it's expensive, because it is in their interest to ensure that the IPO gets subscribed. No one wants their IPO to fail. So it is in their interest to price it in a manner that there is at least demand for one-time subscription. From a promoter's point of view, I keep on saying this, that, in India, you basically have a lot of family businesses. A lot of people raise their hands, the companies which are sitting here as well. Even post-listing, you find most of the promoters continue to hold anywhere between 75 to 90% in the company. So actually, if you think about it, if the IPO does well on listing, and let's say the price doubles in a year's time or 2 years' time or 3 years' time, who's got the maximum to gain? The promoter, because he's still sitting with 76 to 90%. So when people say that, no, promoters are trying to maximize the IPO pricing, I firmly disagree with that. Unless the intention of the promoter is just to vanish with the IPO proceeds, that is not the intent. And surprisingly, not only have IPOs given good returns on listing in the last 2-3 years, but pulling out data for the last 5-6 years, you find that IPOs on an absolute basis have given returns of 400%. For example, I just looked at the data. IPOs which came out in calendar year 2019 on an average have given 450% average and absolute return till date. So, I think it's a bit of a dummy which is going around in the market that, there's IPOs are expensively priced. I think if there is demand for an IPO, even of a one-time subscription, it is adequately priced. It doesn't necessarily have to be 100 times subscribed for it to be,
Pranav, just when you said even if it's one time subscribed, he started with Infosys. Infosys was an undersubscribed issue, if you all know.
That's absolutely correct. And, one couple of last questions before we have to, wind up at 4 o'clock. In the next 12 to 24 months, this question is to both Radha and to Dr. Harish. Which sectors do you think are going to drive the IPO market, particularly the SME space?
I would not like to prioritize any particular sector, because when I see my NSE index of SMEs, in fact, it has a good representation by the capital goods, manufacturing, pharma, electric vehicle, solar EPC, and now VFX companies also. But I has already shared, that because net zero energy transitions targets are in place by Government of India, we are also getting the green taxonomy in place. So I think this capital goods industry, especially into power equipments or anything related to green energy transition, be it solar inverter, batteries, or for that matter, transformer, smart meter, this will surely do good. My personal favorite would be, I like to see more technologies companies coming into SMEs. They're not coming. In fact, we are interacting with many companies based in Karnataka. Of late, the VCP funding is right down because they expect a lot of valuation and they're burning the cash. They think SME IPOs are not good, but there are so many good tech companies which are asset-light model, making good cash flows, having high EBITDA, high PAT margins. I think they will start coming, I think. And if they comes, I think it's a good lottery for everyone, But one point before Radha add his perspective is, I think I did not see any question coming forward. I did not feel very encouraged, What is stopping these companies to come forward and raise the capital? They have got sufficient cash flows, good team in place, product in place, meeting all the criteria. Out of all the 12 hands raised, I think 10 people are meeting the criteria, but there's no question. I think one thing which you should, I think Radha indirectly said that you invest in other companies, why don't you want people to invest in your companies? So Ashish Chauhan Saab, our MD, says very aptly, and it is a very important point I'd like to make, that other than the RBI governor who gives the kind of signing authority when they sign the check on currency, they said, I give you the guarantee to return your money. I think you have the similar power. When you issue the check in the shares in the market, you become like a demigod, Basis your shares, people are making money 400% in 4 years, So I think as a good company founder, as a person who has created legacy business or created a heritage, why don't you cash upon it? Not for you, for also for the investors, Put some money on the table for those investors who are keen to part of this journey. They will bring the growth to you and also, allow you to follow certain dreams, which I think if you not, but your next generation need to follow. This is just a humble submission. Rest is your money, your product, your company.
You need to believe in yourself. That is the main thing that I have to do. And just, I can see a growth in the healthcare and pharmaceutical and FMCGs also companies. Just to add on what Harish has said.
Yes, please. Someone has a question there.
Yeah, see, actually, when you asked, do you have any question, so this thought never has come to, as far as me is concerned, but this particular session, it's created a very, serious thinking at least, so that why I can't also be part of it, because maybe nobody's put this idea. I mean, this is the first time this idea is you are generating into me that so that I can spread. Definitely, I will seriously be thinking of listing my company. Thank you.
Thank 24 for that, for having this session.
Absolutely.
So that's right.
I just like to add a small anecdote, a story here, A founder making 5 crores per annum, making 1 crore up, so this is top line. 1 crore of revenue consistently for 3 years. And finally, this company has to shut down because he was not aware that he's eligible for IPO. And this founder is me, Harish Ahuja. What I'm suggesting here is many times we think that our company need to have Series A from the VC, Blackstone should invest 200 crores in me, then Series D like Ola, like Series E like Zomato, and then I'll come for listing. No. Like Mr. Haldea said, you know, you can list today if you are achieving these 3 basic criteria, 3-year operation history, 1 crore EBITDA positive, and your net worth is positive. At least you can start exploring. I think don't wait for some PE VC and come and talking to you. No, you have created a product which is generating cash flows. You have created a company which has another 10 years runway at least, you know, and generating some free cash flows. I think you can think of that, doing that, you know. Don't become another Harish Ahuja. That's the answer. So this time I had come with a mission, not with ambition.
No, PEVCs will automatically come to your company when you go in for an IPO. That is a guarantee, actually.
No, and one other thing, Pradeep ji, you were mentioning earlier in terms of a lot of talent leaving Kerala and not wanting to stay here. So an IPO is also fantastic in the sense it can help in attracting and retaining talent because you can offer ESOPs to your employees. So not only does it become a big liquidity event for you as a promoter or a founder of a company, but also to your employees. And it can be an excellent tool. You would have read in the paper recently in the last 3 years how many employees have become millionaires in various startup companies like Zomato and all the ones which have got listed. So that's another big plus point as far as listing is concerned.
No, then I would like to have one more plus point. That is the paper, that is a tradable paper that you are giving, you know. You can have an inorganic acquisitions without shelling 1 paisa. You can issue your shares and acquire companies. So this is the power of listing.
Yeah, hello. Yeah.
Pradeep, you know, with your permission, hello, Manoj.
Yeah, please.
You know, see, as far as our state, probably Kerala is concerned, you know, so we do have many bigger companies which can be eligible or it is eligible for SMEs. The problem is of awareness. Mostly, you know, so those people are not thinking of it. So, with 2 eminent people from BSc and NSC, probably I would request you to have a communication, you know, to encourage the companies, so we can have some kind of things, probably from the government side or from the exchange side, a communication channel like, you know, mutual fund sahi hai, kind of an advertisement came. Like IPO, to promote IPO, we can think about such kind of things. That is one. Second, from government side, they can think of having some amount of, you know, tax cuts or tax supports, or from cost support angle. All those things can also be, you know, thought about for supporting SMEs.
Just to intervene here, Kerala is the best government in terms of supporting IPOs.
I'm sure that
50% of IPO expense or 1 crore, whichever is higher, is being paid by Kerala. Most of the state governments are giving 10 lakh to 20 lakh. Kerala is the highest, but despite of that, founders are not coming. That's the question.
That's not
but that
exactly.
Be,
so we need
that
to address
would be the reason. Like, you know, so probably it is an awareness issue. So this needs to really penetrate to the minds of people, probably, you know, the minds of the promoters and the directors of the company. As you rightly said, the employees, those who are actually flying from here, will have lot more opportunities to stay over here by doing IPOs, and they can also become millionaires and stay back there in Kerala. So we are actually supplying brains to the other states, or even into the Europeans, or, you know, UK or other states. So that can also be prevented by doing IPOs. There are many, many advantages which we can see. By listening to this, I'm sure that we will have more number of companies coming out with IPO this year, 2025.
Thank you, Manoj. So before we wind up, I started my story with a small anecdote on Infosys.
I think he had a question.
Yeah, please.
My question is, it's a lot of, as you rightly said, there are a lot of companies in Kerala who would like to go, but never know that how to go in. See, that's most important thing is we never knew that how to go about it. Because business doing good, making good profit. As you rightly said, question is that why you want to dilute your ownership? That's a major issue. The mental, it's basically, if you ask me, the psychological issue is there. I'm sure my friend is sitting here. His 3,300 crores is what his turnover is. I think has not gone. Should have gone maybe 10 years ago. The question is, I've been there industry. The question is now, there's no cost issue is not there, then how to go to? There's no consultants here, unlike maybe Chennai or Bangalore, Ahmedabad and all. No, that's all. IPO is a normal thing there. But in our place, nobody is there.
So
and
we are there to help
the
you.
question is that basically, since the question is that when do I, see what the timing is most important. Say, so what is the time for me to go? Okay, am I ready now? So is there somebody to advise or make a consultancy? But you can come and tell us, look, this is what it is. Okay, this is a time for you to go, or maybe 1 year, 6 months later. The major question what we think that Kerala is, okay, we've been doing, there are a lot of big companies, good companies are doing well, but then there's a saying goes that the elephant doesn't know its size. So that's what we're all facing. Because there are good companies, big companies, we're making good profit, cash flows are good, and zero debt companies, but then we don't know how to go about, and are we ready? We should go. So somebody has to push. Sure. That is not what is not happening in the Kerala.
No, I think that's why I have come with my colleague here who stays in Bangalore, and I asked him to at least station yourself 7 days in Kerala. Himanshu, why don't you, he's behind you. And you can get his card and connect with him. In fact, since morning we had done around 3-4 meetings, and we have planned 2 more meetings. And we met consultant also, CAs also, which can handhold you. We don't endorse them per se, but I think there is an ecosystem we are trying to create. NSE in last 2 years has done more than 280 IPOs. And we are also entering into an MOU with the Kerala government, And Kerala government will invite you for holding this focus session where we do the hand holding to you. Sir, one very important thing, like you are making 3,300 crores, sir. Now you think your profit is, let's say 10%, 330 crores. You are not 330 crores, sir. Or you are not 3,300 crore, you may be 16,000 crore, because when I see your earnings and I give a P multiple of 20, you suddenly become 16,000 crore company. I mean, we don't think like that, because market value you, market reward in a very different structure manner. Just start thinking that way, You may be assessing your value like Radha said, you are underconfident or you are undervaluing yourself. You may be a very big company without knowing of yours, So we are here to help you to achieve your, next milestone and also handhold you, sir.
Thank you for that. And I'll actually tell you one interesting anecdote right here from Kerala. The world's largest gold loan finance company is Muthoot Finance. Muthoot Finance came out with an IPO in the year 2011, and I was one of the people who helped them market that IPO. I was personally involved in that. They came out with the IPO at a price of 175 rupees per share. Today, one share is costing nearly 3,000 rupees. So as Pranav was mentioning, the Muthoot family even today controls about 75% of the shares. But you can see how much their wealth has increased, which is exactly what, Dr. Harish was also mentioning. And with respect to, the lack of consultants he has mentioned, I'm more than happy to help you, guide you as to, in case you want to, some brainstorming, I'm more than happy to help you with that. Yep. So unless there are any more final questions, yes, sir.
Hello. I would like to know if an SME takes a decision to move for a public listing, how much is the timeline, how much duration it requires to complete the process? That is number one question. Second one, it has been informed here that in Kerala about so far 3 SMEs are listed. If you don't mind, we are interested to know the names of those companies who have come forward as the initial investors. These 2 things I like to get answered.
I would answer the second question, then Radha will take the process part. This is Holomark Optomechatronics. It was listed in 23-24. Sol Plastic Products Limited, FY 24-25. And New Malayalam Steel Limited, this year, FY 24-25. These are 3 companies listed in NSE.
There are 2 more actually. SAFA Systems and Technologies and probably on BSE.
Yeah.
And F14 Communications India, which are the other two, which are only
so there
SME
are
IPOs.
5 SME IPOs, and the time taken would be anything between 4 to 6 months. The whole process can be driven faster if the compliance level at your company is already in place.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? I cannot see any more questions. So I wish to thank all my fellow panelists for having spared their time and being with us today. And special thanks to Mr. Srikandan Nair and to Team 24 News for facilitating this function. I'm sure that this is going to act as a catalyst in hopefully bringing and opening up the capital base as far as Kerala is concerned. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, by that we conclude this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, please be seated. We have mementos. Okay. Sir.
Hello. Gopi, that was a flawless session. Actually, in this IPO boom, we have a room. And I love that thought-provoking question. You rely on other companies and you are investing in other companies. Why don't you allow other people to invest in your company? We have to think, we have to create such a business culture, and we have to change our mindset. See, we have immensely rich companies, so we have to go through that process. That is a natural process of growing a business. Thank you so much. Wonderful panel. Thank you so much, sir.
Krishna, one more thing. The most important thing that he has mentioned is the Muthoot. Even after going to this IPO, the family is keeping the ownership of 75% shares. Most of them have a fear that once the company is listed, they will lose the control over the company. Yeah. I think actually with the support of NSE and BSE, we will be having more workshops or seminars or conclaves on this issue in the coming months. In the next month, February, and in March also, we can organize it in Calicut and on in Trivandrum. And we will so sir, with you, both of your support, I think you can also support us in that way. That we can do at that time. I think we can get more detailing about this. Okay, thanks a lot for coming, and also your expert opinions on the issue. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
We'll present the mementos.
So first, our moderator, Shri Pradeep Chandrasekaran, will be receiving memento from our chief editor, Shri R. Srikandan. Thank you, sir. Dr. Harish Ahuja. And thanks a lot, sir, for extending your help to Kerala. Radha, Krithivasan. Mr. Manoj Ravi. Mr. Ameya, Prabhu, who joined us virtually, and we are so sorry for the disruptions happened in between. That was technical issues. So Mr. Ameya, Prabhu's memento will be sent to UAE. So thank you so much. And thank you.
Mr. Pranav, Haldea. Yeah. Thank you very much, panelists and moderator. Thank you.
5 minutes, next session will be beginning. But before that, to refresh our brains, coffee will be served.